Should we do both of them? Okay.
Hello, everyone. We've got full house today. All right, just like we do every week, we've got Melissa today. We're going to be talking about your weekly weather outlook and what to expect heading into the weekend and then all throughout next week as well. Got it popped up as always. I'll pop up your page too, Melissa. And we've got WMBB.
Yeah, and we'll be diving into the next 7-day outlook and kind of why it looks the way it looks. A little more in depth than we can do on our 3-minute weather hits.
Yes. All right, I feel like we've got some people on. All right, well, we're just going to dive right into it. And we're going to be swapping back and forth between, wow.
Forth and back.
Happy Friday, everyone. Between camera full so that you can see both of us and our graphics as well. So we're just going to dive right on in, and it has been above normal temperature-wise, and it's going to stay that way. We'll make sure you can actually see these graphics full as well. There we go. Just like we talked about last week, we're still seeing some of that ridging. You can go back and watch last week's episode where we were talking about what that means at that 500 millibars point in the atmosphere, that mid-level range where you're seeing still this warming trend, and we're going to continue to see that even today. Temperatures still running about 10 degrees above normal. All right, heading into tomorrow, we see this front trying to dig in, and what's happening is you're still seeing that ridging, keeping a lot of those rain chances off, at least to the west end of the Panhandle, out of our viewing area today, and into tomorrow we'll see that set up and it turns stationary.
The fact that it's trying and that ridging is working against it is why you see on the left side of that L, it stalls. So you have the stall indicator of that blue cold front and the red warm front right next to each other. That ridging is slowing it down and saying, nope, you shall not pass.
and to go off of that line, that boundary you're seeing where that warm moist air meets that cooler air, we're blocking the cooler air out of our region, but at the same time, where that boundary stalls, that's your best shot at rain chances. So some isolated showers to look out for Saturday afternoon, and even this is still stalled out. Yeah, it really stays there even into Sunday. And beyond that, we still have a really nice warming trend going on. Temperature is not taking too bad a hit. And oftentimes, you look at temperatures, you look at precipitation. If they're both fairly weak, that's a weak boundary.
And you know what? Speaking of high pressures, if you look right where Panama City is and the tip of that panhandle where Apalachicola, Port St. Joe is, you can see the winds moving in a clockwise direction, which is opposite of that low pressure moving in anti-clockwise position. That's a good indicator of that high pressure that is working to stall the front right there. So you can even see it, a little bit of high pressure indicator, those clockwise winds.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we'll continue on even what to expect after this weekend. And it's funny, a lot of people are kind of stuck inside this weekend, and you've been working from home. So unfortunately, big picture, it's gorgeous out today, but you can't really
that's actually
enjoy
kind of
it.
That's kind of actually, so it stinks today that it's gorgeous and you're at home, right? But the rain chances pick up this weekend.
They do.
So you're going to be stuck inside, but at least it's going to be a little more gray and rainy. You're not going to have the sunshine out looking at you at the window going, hey, it's sunny.
Exactly.
You
it's
know,
a lot
it'll be
easier
raining.
to kind
It's a great weekend to stay in and watch those movies that you're stocking up for social distancing on.
Yeah, exactly. And hey, if you have any suggestions, send them our way.
Yeah, we'll spread them.
Yes. All right. Well, we're going to continue on with what to expect after this weekend. Heading into Monday, we actually have another front try to come through.
And actually, right before that front,
we can take you back.
Let's rewind just a second. There's something really cool that this is also going to act as our educational moment for the day. And we really want to highlight right there where the cold front is, that blue line with those arrows on it. Look right behind it, right on that top line of it. You can see that rain is right there on that boundary. Why is that? Why is the rain right at that boundary and not south of it? So we got a graphic for you.
We do, and pretty cool explainer actually. if we can
I
actually.
think we actually have to click over to it.
Yeah,
when
we're still
or we'll go
paused
through the
in it.
entire timeline. Yeah. So here we go.
All right.
So check this out. That boundary behind it is that cold air, and it rises up, or the warm air gets pushed up because of that cold air, and the dry air behind it. Moist air on the warm front side.
And you have that cool, dry air behind it. And so what we're saying is we're stuck on the moist, warm side right now. And you're not necessarily going to see that cold, dry air. And along that boundary, if the front is unstable enough, that's where you could see that lifting happen. That's where we're typically going to see your best rain chances, or sometimes out ahead in front of it, where a squall line could develop. And that's where you start to see the threat for general rain chances, but also the severe weather threat.
And in this particular cold front, it being weak, the likelihood of that warm, moist air being shoved up into the atmosphere with as much strength as it would need for, say, a thunderstorm won't be the case for this weekend. And into Monday, this cold front will be rather weaker. It'll still work to push the moist air up and then increase the rain chances, where you'll see at that boundary just north of the Panhandle, you'll see significant rainfall, but not necessarily storms just yet, because it's not really a strong cold front enough to give it as much forcing as it would need for that kind of.
Yeah, exactly. But I do want to touch on, this is kind of just one of those fronts that's trying to come through, right? This is not the last front we're going to see this season. We are just kicking off severe weather season in the deep south, and I kind of want to touch base on that before we probably have to wrap it up, and Melissa has to go and I have to get ready for midday. But basically, they're in the deep south. There's technically 2 severe weather seasons when you're talking about severe thunderstorms. You're talking about hail and the tornado threat. March, April, even May is that first one, and then we get that second one in November and December.
And that is going to be thanks to, we're talking about this weekend's cold front being rather weaker, enough to bring some rain in, couple degree temperature drop, but rather weak. Eventually, as the season shifts, those warm fronts meeting the cold fronts will get stronger. So it's going to be a bigger warm front pushing into the whatever's left of winter, whatever winter cold air we had around. When they meet on a more significant level later in the season, those frontal boundaries will get stronger and more intense, stronger thunderstorms.
Exactly. I mean, there's times in winter where it's too cold for thunderstorms. So a lot of times you'll get your worst tornado outbreaks across the deep south, and eventually the Midwest later into summertime. And if we have time, really quick, I want to kind of break down the jet stream, because I think that's also a big factor of why sometimes it's not until spring you see some of this severe weather threat. So we're going to go into analysis. Last week, touched base on just the different levels of the atmosphere and when you're seeing different layers, and why we break down and look at, analyze different layers of the atmosphere. Jet stream is, you're talking the upper levels of the atmosphere. And what we're looking at is the jet stream slowly will shift back northward. So in winter it dips down. That's what happened with the polar vortex a couple years ago. We were able to finally see some of that Arctic air in Midwestern areas. So if we just look at the US right now, and you'll see that areas like the South, where pretend that this is the jet stream, which is just that fast, incredibly fast moving pocket of air,
About
westerlies.
30,000 feet in the air. So
About-
how high up you would see that on
Right.
average.
And you're seeing the South still warm, still moist, still these boundaries coming through, whereas in the Midwest, that once that completely shifts and moves northward, that's when you're seeing in those summer months, now the Midwestern areas have that shot to see those boundaries interact and stronger cold fronts to target their areas. So right now, deep south, we're seeing that threat, and we'll see it for March, for April, for May. And
Another thing with jet streams too is they work to bring moisture into an area. So that big jet stream, when it was in that big wave, it's starting on the Pacific, it's bringing all that Pacific moisture up, and you're seeing it move through, like, you know, Texas and into Mississippi and the southeastern states. And when it does that, that's just fuel for those storms in between the meeting of the warm air and the cold air. Just helps to fuel the severe weather threats that we'll see later in the season.
Yes, exactly. And so while we're so grateful right now. I mean, with everything else going on, man, the last thing we need is severe weather threat right now. So, yeah, for right now, we're grateful that that's not the case. That tornado just touched down in Texas 2 nights ago, so it's out there. It's just
But
not here yet.
with it being calm weather and being in a situation where we're juggling so much, we don't need the weather to be on top of what everyone's having to juggle right now.
Right.
You're at home. You have a lot of time on your hands. This is a great time to consider severe weather preparedness, your family plans. Walk around your house. Find that center room away from windows. There's many walls between you and the outside. This is a good time to explore your home and find that safe room. If you're not familiar with it right now, if you're not sure, look around, get your plan. Like that to help you feel productive is something you can cross off your list.
Absolutely. I'm just gonna double check to see if there's any questions out there. And you can always feel free to comment questions later, and we'll post this later too.
Check back in and see what you have to say after you've watched it, maybe later in the afternoon.
Yes, but big picture, if you're just joining us now, we talked about how we have a few weak cold fronts coming through, but while these may be weaker and not all too impactful for your weather, right now, this is the beginning of severe weather season in the Deep South. So just stay in the loop, but of course, there's a lot going on in the world right now. So
The weather's on your side in the southeast at least.
Yeah, for right now, weather's in your favor.
Well, panhandle.
Panhandle. And we'll continue to keep you guys updated. I think that wraps it up. Is there
Stay
anything
safe.
else you wanted? Yeah.
Stay healthy.
Yes, stay healthy. Wash your hands.
Yep.
All right. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and we will see you next Friday.